You're listening to Chameleon Church, biblical antidotes for the modern man. With your host, Allan Aguirre.
What's up? So I started off yesterday's Monday night devotional all deadpan and everything. I think I worried some people. No, I'm not on any sort of medication or any sort of sedative. I was just messing with you guys. And apparently it worked because you guys were all kind of tripping out. Even Tim afterward, hey, is everything okay? I came in late, but it was like a really weird night. There was people missing and just had a weird vibe about it. Oh man, Allan Aguirre with your Chameleon Church show, Tuesday morning thingamager, coming to you live and direct from the Wasatch back out here in northern Utah. Got my buddy here, Lenny Perata, Pastor Lenny Perata.
Yeah.
Kris Rosentrater, I think, is in. He's away with his family. He's gonna try and. He didn't tell me he wasn't going to be here this morning, but he's not here this morning. That guy, and yeah. So, hey, just a couple things. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that little bell on YouTube, and you will be alerted whenever we go live. When we schedule a live stream. So if you're subscribed to YouTube, if you like the Facebook pages, whether it's Travelog or Chameleon Church, and if you're on YouTube, for example, you have the little bell, it will alert you when we have a broadcast coming up. Look at that. It's still freezing, this thing. And so you should have. So if that's the case, if you subscribed, if you hit that bell, then you were alerted to the fact that tonight at 8 p.m. Central, we will begin the Torah reading that's mandated, that we are instructed to do at the end of the Shemitah year during Tabernacles. Now, in case you don't know what we're talking about, it is mentioned in the Feast Unlocked book. Cheers. That's the inside joke. And so let me just read it so that you guys have an idea of what it is that we're talking about. All right. My nose. See, the red light's on, the cameras are on. Somebody suggested it might be all this freaking electronic stuff. I don't know. Here we go. We are in Deuteronomy 31, verse 9. I'll start with verse 9. Then Moses wrote this law and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. Verse 10, and Moses commanded them, at the end of every 7 years, at the set time in the year of release, at the Feast of Booths. Set time, the year of release, is when you release people from their debts. When all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God at the place that he will choose, during the Feast of Booths, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and little ones, and the sojourner within your towns, that they may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, and be careful to do all the words of this law, and that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as you live in the land that you are going over to the Jordan to possess. That starts tonight based on the visible crescent. And that is what we're going to do. You need to make sure your children are involved. You need to make sure gather your family. And we will be taking turns throughout the next 8 days, 8 nights at the same exact place, Chameleon Church, Travelog, YouTube, Facebook. and we will read the Torah, Deuteronomy chapters 4 through 30. Um, some people get hung up on the in the land, in the land. Well, I'm not in the land, so this doesn't apply to me. Well, that would be that's not true. Here's why. There are instructions regarding sexual immorality that say in the land. So that doesn't suggest or mean that you can be sexually immoral because you're not in the land. See what I'm saying? So you can't have it both ways. It's okay. So yeah. So don't do that. So we are going to be reading Deuteronomy 4 through 30 in the next 8 nights because it is the beginning of the high Sabbath. Tonight will be the high Sabbath of the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. It's also the birth. This is also the birth of Messiah, and you should already have your sukkah up. Your sukkah should be up by this afternoon, this evening, so that tonight you can be in your sukkah for Shabbat, and then tomorrow you can start decorating it if you haven't already. That's what it says in the instruction. Again, this is all in the feast book. I'm not trying to sell you a book if you don't have it. I'm just letting you know we've already gone through all these passages and compiled them like 5 years ago. So, yeah, Lenny, we have arrived at the Feast of Tabernacles, the end of the year. Man, notice that this reading of the Torah, we just read this in Deuteronomy 31, with your children, so to remind you, so that the fear of the Lord will come into you, so that you will be sure to do this Torah. It's the same kind of thing we did at Shavuot with the declaration at Shavuot. It's the constant reminder, because God knows we're humans and then we're just silly, stupid, and we're going to look in the mirror and forget what we look like. And we need this constant reminder of what it is He has instructed, because that's why we wear tassels, because He knows we're just not going to. Because I think, well, I know, first I know for a fact there's really stupid people out there. I run into them a lot, but we're also just lazy and careless, and we just don't want to align. What is that? What is that? You're older than I am. You've been around these humans longer than I have. Life among the Terrans. What the heck is going on?
It's to get the dull of hearing. I mean, and yet they need to be educated because they're not educated because it hasn't been taught. When you think about what you just said, what you read out of Deuteronomy 31:9 is the actual putting into practice the prophetic mandate that was given to Elijah and John the Baptist to restore the hearts of the fathers to the children. Make sure your children are there. To bring back the wisdom of righteousness to the disobedient, to call them to obey the law, the Torah, and what He says is holy. That's what we're going to be reading. And then to prepare a people for His coming. Why? You know what Tabernacles is about? It's about dwelling with Him for the next 1,000 years. So this is a divine rehearsal. This is a dry run. And He's saying, I want you to pay attention to this because it's more than just a mere thing you're doing. He goes, my life and my presence will be in this if you can believe it. It takes faith. Yeah. And if we don't put our faith in what we hear and what we read, I don't have time for that. It's not worth it. And so what we're trying to tell people is it's time to really see the life that's in these words. And so when He says to read it, because what Tabernacles is all about is dwelling with Him for 1,000 years. Remember, if you want to know something, this jump starts because when He gets back, He's going to be teaching the Torah daily from His temple.
Yeah, I love the way you just brought in the
Luke 1:17.
Yeah, I love the way you brought that in. Here's the thing: we're asked. My wife and I we've been asked a lot throughout the years how we did what we did. We just tell man, it's Deuteronomy 6, man. It's like what you just said. You got to raise up, preparing a people for the Lord. Raise up your children. The spirit of Elijah. It's all of these components that we don't to us, they're not Christian bookstore doilies. You know what I'm saying? They're not these little Christian bookstore niceties. It's lifestyle. It's life, and this is part of that. And that's why it's so important. That's why he says, I think twice. He just mentioned the children like twice. It's important because, I mean, as parents, it is on us. It's our responsibility, and it's it's all of that stuff. And we need to bring the families together. We need to instruct them in the way that they should go, so that they won't forget it. And it's again, it's life. It's lifestyle. It's not faith, Christianity. It's not an accessory. It's not like a little clutch bag. Oh, this one matches my outfit. No, it's not like that at all. It's lifestyle. Yeah.
I remember when, I think it was 2007 or so, it was right after the big coup in 2006 with me up in Park City. You started sharing that with me, and then I started Googling it, got Vodi Bakum, and I think I talked to you more. And then when I tried to introduce it to the church, I lost 15 families. Because you know why? The moms and dads didn't want to teach their children. They wanted the church to do it for them. And that's where the church has become a surrogate, and it usurped the authority of mom and dad. I lost a lot of people over that.
Yeah, people, and we talk about this in various ways. People would much rather leave, check out, demonize you, whatever, than it is to change, take up their cross, pick up, the responsibility, on and on and on. It's just, I mean, it's always been like that. I mean, if we look at the Gospels correctly through the right lens, you'll see that these people are just always not interested in doing the right thing. They're again, lazy and stupid. We're not going to do it. It's like, I've observed the Torah my whole life. And Jesus said, all right, well, then go sell everything you own and follow me. He goes, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I can't do that. Let me go bury my parents first. Let the dead bury the dead. I can't just walk away from my wealth and follow you. Then, I can't do that. We see these examples throughout, not just the New Testament, but throughout the whole of what they call, the compilation of the Bible. Man just isn't interested, or he's only interested in doing it the way he wants to do it, based on his reference experience, comfort level. It's called a religious spirit, because Jesus explains, many are called, few are chosen. And when he said, hey, you need to eat my flesh and drink my blood, that's anti-Torah. You can't do that. And so they immediately, and he knew this, he did it on purpose. He was leveling the field. He was literally he said what he said to get rid of these people that were following him. Thousands and thousands were following him. And he's like, I know their hearts. They're not about me. They're all about what I can do for them. Feed them, heal them and all that. That's not what this is about. It's not about him feeding you. It's not about him healing you. It's about covenant relationship. And so with one fell swoop, man, he said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can't have anything to do with me. And they said, this is a hard hearing. You can do it. Because it's against Torah. And he offered no explanation. He did not offer them an explanation. And they all left. And it's just the 12 sitting there, probably looking like a bunch of dumb deer in the headlights. Are we going to have to take a bite of his arm? Whatever they were thinking. And he looked at them again, and he goes, are you going to leave me as well? And they said, where would we go? You have the words of eternal life. And he goes, didn't I choose you? Yikes. Many are called, few are chosen. Here's a wall-nowism. What's the difference? Well, it's a religious spirit. The called gets this they hear this new thing, like Christianity. Here's this new thing. Hey, so last night I'm driving home last night. We went and got some ice cream. Oh, by the way, remember Stephen Piper, that redhead guy that was at the redhead beard from Tennessee that came to the conference that was on
Yeah.
went on the
A
Extreme
young
Tour?
guy.
Right. Well, he's been here since Wednesday or Thursday. He's leaving tomorrow or Thursday. He's going back to. But anyway, he's here with us. He's been here for the last few days. He's been an amazing help in my putting together the studio facilities here in the basement because I can only do so much alone. So that's been a real big help. So anyway,
Yeah, wasn't he a roadie for the
he
musicians?
was he was on tour with the Extreme Tour.
Right.
Yeah, but so on the way home from getting ice cream, there's the big beautiful full moon, and I'm like, man, it's and the thought of wow, Christians freak at the concept that they're supposed to have that the moon is supposed to be involved with their faith walk. It freaks them out, right? So this new revelation comes. Oh, I need to follow the moon. Oh, I need to eat clean. Oh, I need to do the Sabbath. Oh, whatever it might be, right? Oh, I need to speak in tongues. Oh, I should probably stop fornicating. Oh, I should probably whatever it is. Well, so the called gets this revelation. Now, you got to remember, our ways and our thoughts are not his ways, or I'm sorry, well, that too. His ways and his thoughts are not our ways and our thoughts. That means every revelation, every new revelation from Messiah should offend us because it's not, it's not in our wheelhouse. We have to get to that point. Well, right? So, but what happens is the religious spirit that 95% of us have inside of us that drives our faith walk gets confronted with this new thing and it offends us. And we're like, right, it offends us. Oh, I have to eat his flesh. I have to drink his blood. And we go, no, that can't be God. God wouldn't require that of me. God wouldn't ask that of me. God would not tell me anything that would offend me. And so they check out. Boom. That's what a religious spirit says. My walk with God will only go so far, and it doesn't get past this point because this makes me uncomfortable. God would not make me uncomfortable. God wouldn't have me listen to a guy with earrings. God wouldn't have me, upset my family cart and stop serving them bacon. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, that's a religious spirit. And Jesus says, many are called, few are chosen, right? Didn't I choose you? Because what happens is the ones that are on the track of being chosen don't let it. I might not understand it wholly and fully and completely, but I know it's the Father. I know it's the Holy Spirit speaking to me. Right? Now, I'm not saying you do this by yourself without counsel, without advice, and without leadership. But if you go to your Christian leaders, they'll say, yeah, no, God did away with all that stuff, right? So it's tricky. It's a balancing act. You got to find people, right?
That's distorted grace. Distorted
right.
Grace.
I just want to make sure people aren't suggest that I'm saying what I'm not saying those things. Like, for example, we've run into people that are pro-polygamous. That doesn't mean, I think we're supposed to be polygamous. But the church says no. So now I'm going to run off and find people that will support my polygamous ideas and support my desire for polygamy. That's not what I'm saying. It's got to be in order. Yes, I know polygamy is in the New Testament. Yes, I know that there was polygamy in the church. I know that. We don't necessarily believe that was okay with God, because he does say if you want to be a leader in the church, right? If you want to be any of the fivefold, even a bishop, a deacon, you have to be a man of one wife. It does specifically say that. Why? Because there was polygamy. So, and he's coming back for one bride, not multiple brides. See, there's if you look at it with sound spiritual eyes, you'll see one man, one wife, right? Even though there was polygamy. We know there was polygamy because they had to make that distinction. So I'm not saying Just because I guarantee you people are out there getting downloads and they're thinking it's the Holy Spirit and it's not, and then they're finding people to go and support them in that insanity. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is you have to get sound scriptural advice, sound scriptural counsel. I know people think they're getting sound scriptural counsel when they believe they're in the millennium reign, that Jesus is here on earth. And when I ask them, well, where is he and who is he? They say they don't know. That's a special kind of stupid right there. Yeah. So, all that to say, I don't know what I was talking about. Help me, Lenny. Many are called, few are chosen.
There you go.
So there's this thing I don't even know why I was talking about that.
You know what? Let me lay this down. There's I believe a move of the Holy Spirit. We don't, many times because we're in our own circles, we don't see it, but his promises, he's going to draw all men to himself, right? And you know darn well he's shaking the tree in a lot of different places, and he's shaking the tree in a lot of Christianity too. And I think I use this term a lot. It says, when the judgments of God are in the earth, then men learn righteousness. Well, I believe he's not only talking to the unbeliever, but he's talking to the believer. And that righteousness is the one who obeys. And, he's shaking it up, and he's going to start to bring it up more and more because of the distortion of the chaos and the evil that's just growing on this planet. And I believe he's going to shake up the Christian church. We talk about what revival is. It's going to be when men start to respond to the judgments of God, to realize what they're facing. I heard something this last week that I saw it in a different light. Where it says, it's appointed man wants to die and then the judgment. He says, look at the language. He goes, it's appointed for men wants to die and then the evaluation. You got one shot at this.
Right.
One shot at this. And he's shaking things up. And so when I start to see this happen in the past, I had this urge, I think it's in all of us, to really disparage those that are Muppets, to say the least. And I gotta understand more what he's saying. He goes, how he unconditionally loves people. That doesn't mean he lets them get away with it. But we need to, if we're going to minister from our place of strength, we can't judge them from their place of weakness.
Yeah.
And I believe we need to get out there and tell the truth. And I know that that's his heart, and he's going to start drawing a lot of people in, but it's being excited about the fact that he's given us his love and something about the truth that starts to grow in us to call people to say, do you want to hear the truth? And there's a lot of people out there. I go, they don't want to hear religion, but there's that religious spirit, man. It just wants to come in and it wants to build that building. And he says, no. He goes, it's a place of relationships. So when I look at the body of believers, a lot of them really don't have a personal relationship with him. They would rather follow what man has told them all these years. They feel safe that way. That's what you were talking about earlier. They don't want to venture past their traditions.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. They only want to serve God based on their reference. See, here's the thing, again, because we're humans, a lot of people are basing their entire faith walk on their reference experience, on their, I can't tell you how many people are anti-charismatica because, I've been there already. I've already done that. You don't even know. I've been to a church that did that, and it was, and they had a really bad experience. It's like, why do you, they believe that their experience was the one, and it was a bad one. And so based on that alone, everything else has got to be, because there's no way that you, Lenny, or you, Allan, could have an experience different than mine. You're just like me. We're all just human, and there's no way that, you could have had an experience that trumped my experience because, and they think so highly of themselves and their little lives. It's bizarre. It's, I think, Lenny, like Kris, like you and Kris, for example, you guys like know me and have known me for decades. I know that if for example, the majority of people that buy the books, that watch, that interact with us on Chameleon Church or Monday nights or that came to the conference, they don't know a huge, vast majority of my story because I just haven't shared it with them. You know what I mean? They don't really know the details of my life before going to Guatemala. They really don't know my life in Central America and what I experienced and what I saw and what I went through and the levels of the supernatural that we were involved with, and they don't really know 1983 to 1988. And then us meeting, because I don't really talk about it. But I think based on everyone's reference, based on everyone's church experience, based on everyone's whatever, that if people knew just what it is that I was involved with that caused the Holy Spirit to send me to a third world country, and then if they understood what it was that I was doing and experiencing down there, it would I think it would freak some people out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And which is why I'm careful with the amount of stuff I do share. I think publicly, simply because I want to be a good steward of that. I just want to be a good steward, of the people that we're interacting with,
Yeah.
But
God raised you up to share
that?
these things with people, Allan. I mean,
I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said, God raised you up to share your life with people in the hopes that they'll get a life.
Yeah.
And it always starts out that way. People want to, and this is normal, and there's nothing bad, but there's a transition going on. And I'll bring back to a prophetic word you had, is that when people first come into the kingdom, when people first start to hear these things, when people heard your testimony, they're almost living vicariously of what you went through, and they're identifying with it. In some places, they're probably thinking, man, I wish I would have had that experience. But the Lord's trying to download to them saying, you know what? You're mine. You're important. And as you can, and the reason why you hold back sometimes is because not only is the Holy Spirit telling you to do that, but how do I want to say this? They're going to come into a full realization of how important they are in Him. And like any father, any pastor, any teacher, you're going to rejoice when you start to see them go past wherever you could be.
Yeah.
And so I pray for the Chameleon Church people every day. I go, Lord, they're starting to see something. I can see how they rally around and they gravitate. Pretty soon they're going to start to say, wow, there's something in me. I got to give this. And the prophetic word that you have, even though it might have been a spanking, there is a positive note to it. Grow up. There's a maturity coming. You're learning these things. And I have to say this, you're not afraid not only to tell people, but you've lived it. You've had the experience behind it. And when push comes to shove, the one thing you've always done is you've loved more than you've judged. And I've seen that. I've seen that in you where you've loved. And
I remember you telling me a long time ago. I mean, it was literally in the 80s that it's not uncommon for people that were like judged harshly by whatever to end up becoming judges themselves.
Yeah.
I always remember you told me, you shared that with me, and I was like, because I can see that, and it's true. So,
and you know what? We need to judge ourselves because Then
Yeah.
when we stand before the judge, he releases us.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that heat?
Yeah. And I just want Nathalie to know that I wasn't referring to like the gory details of the past sin life. No, I was referring more to like the positive, godly stuff.
Your journey.
Yeah, because again, my heart's desire is to help others to equip you, and to for you to be able to see. That's why I'm starting this vlog. It's like, and I'll explain it in the vlog. But our desire here is to equip you. I mean, we know that not everybody has a charismatic background or charismatic experience or a positive one. How do you speak in tongues? What's stuff like that. And we just want to be able to help people connect the dots, what they're reading, what they're experiencing, what they're seeing, to help them to help them align. And it's like we have to storm. We have to take it by force. We have to be aggressive about our relationship, aggressive about our covenant with the Father, aggressive about our extreme interaction with the Holy Spirit. We have to be aggressive about it because it is life, and we have to become even more aggressive because. So you mentioned earlier, it's a rehearsal. It's a holy rehearsal.
That's right.
Absolutely, 100,000%, right? A moedim. Well, being a musician, part of rehearsing is staging. And things are being staged right now. Things are being staged around us. And they're being staged to take us to this place where we can be, where humanity, mankind as a species, as a race, can be perverted to the point of disqualification. And that's called staging, right? So we need to be aggressive in our alignment and our holding on to the tree of life and all the things that come with that, all the things that coincide with that, eating, our obedience to his commandments, obedience, right? I posted something the other day and there's some Muppets popped up, the Torah without Jesus is legalism. Jesus without the Torah is disobedience. People don't like that because they don't want rules. They don't want to have to obey. Remember, humans are lawless because they're born with a sin nature. And even though Christianity is all about them supposedly lining up, right? Their theologies and doctrines are telling them and have been telling them for quite a long time that they don't have to be. They can be passive. They don't have to be aggressive. There's no way you'll ever be able to be holy. There's no way you'll ever be able to not to sin, and there's no way you'll ever be able to be perfect while on earth. Because if you could, you wouldn't need Messiah. That's the theology and doctrine of Christianity right there, and it's not biblical. It's not even what Jesus said. Jesus said, "Because of me, you have to be holy and perfect and sin."
That's right.
Right? They twist it. It's just like the serpent in the garden. Is it true that he said? Right? So.
You know how many times he said how holy his law is?
Yeah.
And then Paul reiterates it in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, the very end of the chapter. He goes, by no means.
Yeah.
He goes,
right.
He just says, oh my gosh.
Right.
He says, it is so holy, it's unbelievable. Read it for yourselves, folks.
And part two to my comment regarding Nathalie, thank you so much. You said, don't need to know the details to love you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We feel the love from all of you guys all the time. Thank you so much. And we just want to serve you. We just want to serve you well.
You know what? It's interesting.
Getting a little misty in here.
Now, you look at these
I
people.
got something in my eye.
They're falling in love with God. They're beginning on their own. I mean, they're falling in love with God. And boy, oh boy, isn't that the mission statement? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. I mean, it's all wrapped up in that first commandment, Deuteronomy 6, everything.
Yeah. Well, it was just so incredibly impressed. It was so incredibly impressive. The conference, the Shavuot conference, how all these people showed up ready, rip roaring and ready to go, man. The level of faith, the conviction of faith, man, it was just so. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and encouraging. And like Kris even said, Kris took me and Christina aside, whenever, wherever I'm there, because Kris has the leisure of being able to travel to different things that are going around the country. He goes, and I know that he does that, and he goes, I do this all the time, and in no way does the Holy Spirit ever show up this quickly, this fast, this powerful. So that's a huge endorsement, and Kris knows about that stuff, and that speaks to you guys, to Tim, Nathalie, to all those of you that showed up. Oh man, awesome. We will be doing it again. Can't wait for you guys can't wait to see y'all again. So it'll be amazing.
Linda, my wife's an old salt. She said when she was there, she goes, I haven't felt this in 30 years. She goes, I haven't seen anything closely remote to something to feel the presence of a spirit. And I mean, she's been around a long time, that lady.
Yeah.
And so when her and your wife went goofy in the back, man, I mean, Holy Spirit goofy, the good kind. I'm going, wow, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah.
It was sovereign.
Yeah. So thank you, you guys, for your comments, and thank you for your love and your all that stuff. We'll be right back. That sound you hear in the background is my coffee maker. So it might sound a little weird. I think Lenny's taking a break. Cool.
I'm back.
Cool, because I got to finish getting my cup of coffee.
Yes.
All right, Lenny, what do we talk about now?
So what, I mean, why is Sukkot this year is so important, I think. I think there's a lot to look forward to that for people to prepare their hearts to really, I think there's going to be something prophetic really, really, really released this year. And when I mean prophetic, it's not just to know the next and the best and the greatest. I think the people, if you understand what prophecy is, edification, exhortation, and comfort, I think that those that sow into this are going to be so into his presence that there's going to be a dynamic released in the lives of those that really put their faith in this to receive from him. That's going to prepare you for this next year to come, because again, like one person says, there's a shaking coming. It's already here, but I think it's going to launch a lot of people in their own spheres of influence, whether it's at work, with their family, or if they're called into areas where they can influence a lot of people through ministry. I really believe God's going to do something like that. He's really going to release it. And that's that part of the prophetic that I think that gives you the empowerment to really bear the fruit that just glorifies the Father. And I think that that's where we need to prepare ourselves for Sukkot this year. Not prepare ourselves. I think we need to receive. We need to expect it more so than just wait for it. We need to expect it because he's there to meet us in this. Remember, these are the festivals where we go to meet with him.
Right.
And that's
indwelling, ingathering.
That's right.
That's why we use those words. Exodus to ingathering. That's Passover to Sukkot. That's literally what that means. Hopefully, you guys figured that out by now. And right, because that's what this is about. Here, that's why we talk about in Revelation. This is probably. I mean, I have. Oh, it's not in. It's in the feast book. I have a favorite part in the feast book about our tomorrow, our ingathering, our being called and gathered by him in Revelation is using the same language from Exodus 6. I will be your God, you will be my people. A people that I am bringing and calling to myself. And it's amazing because this whole thing started way back then. It's the Passover lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth. There's this timeline that's occurring. There's a celestial timeline, God's timeline that is occurring, that we've been inserted into, and it's just a matter of our cooperating, with his ebb and flow, and it's. Tabernacles, man. It's ingathering. It's indwelling. It's man.
I think there's something to the fact. What does it say in Isaiah 66? That this is one of the festivals, one of his feasts that will be done for eternity.
Right.
And the implication is even when the new Jerusalem comes down, and it's about the Father's house that we're going to be in. Remember when he says, I go to my Father and in his house are many mansions. I think there's an allusion to tabernacles there that we haven't even tapped into yet. Because whenever you look at what our future relationship is going to be, it's wrapped up in the festivals when we go to meet with him. And there's a deeper level of the Torah that we haven't even touched yet. But the Father's house is huge. And, it's interesting. The Father loves the Son, and the book from beginning to end, in the volume of the book it's written of me, But what does Yeshua do? He says, look at my Father. And that was really seen in John 17 when he says, my Father and myself are one. And guess what? You're invited into it. So when you look at tabernacles, when you look at the little house that was built, it's the Father's house. It really is.
Yeah. My mind's going.
I'm looking at some of the things, just reading some of the comments. Wow. I mean, when you're looking up at the stars, boy, if realizing that the joy of the Lord is all the chaos around you is just broken, you don't even have to pay attention to it because you're in his presence. That's what he wants to prepare his bride for the days to come. That's why if people are so missing out, if they don't understand not only the importance, but the privilege we have to Sukkot with him. I know I got to work on that, what it really means to live in that joy that's beyond understanding, because we're always trying to understand everything. I think that's when it says a peace that passes understanding, that kind of shalom. We're human beings. We want to understand. We want to break it down. We want to know where it fits. So if we want to, we'll participate. That's not his way. That shalom comes without you having to have the understanding. And what did you just say? He didn't give him any explanation to drink his blood and eat his body. But there's life. And we,
And he knew it was offending people.
Yeah.
That was his intent. He was intending to offend them. He was intending to drive them away because their hearts weren't with him.
Right. It's a lesson in learning how to walk in the Spirit and putting down the efforts of our flesh.
Yeah.
What's it called? The evil intentions. Yetzer hara. That's what flesh is. Yeah. Our evil intentions.
Hey, I've seen some chatter out there online about this being a Jubilee year. No one knows when the Jubilee is. Let's just clarify that. Nobody knows. See, that's and I think that's interesting because everything else regarding the Jewish calendar or the Jewish timelines, they've been able to maintain, they've been able to keep, they've been able to, keep going, including the Shemitah, because we have a Shemitah reference in the New Testament. So because of that, we know that this is the Shemitah year. But they lost track of when a Jubilee begins. So they don't have that 7 sevens. They don't know when the 49th year is. They don't know when the 50th year is. And I hear Christians more than anybody talk. I hear Christians talk about it more than Jews talk about it. As far as, this is a Jubilee year. You don't know that, man. And it's funny. A lot of the people that say that, the majority that talk about it, don't even keep the feast. So it's like they're just talking out of their,
I think that's a danger in a lot of the Messianic community, because people want to be precise in what they think is the timing. And he basically gave us warning signs of what's going on in this planet to look to him and to trust in him, because for some reason, that's how the pre-trib rapture was born, really was, It's the whole escapism behind it was thought out so that they wouldn't have to face what's coming, and they tried to mathematize it, and it just doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pastors and how many teachers really flamed out on that one. 88 reasons why Jesus is coming back in 1988.
88. Remember that? Jeez.
Oh boy, that was like the people calling out the whole Jubilee. I mean, give me,
And the whole Hal Lindsey thing.
Can't go there. Yet stirred up a
So,
generation.
We don't know. We don't know when the Jubilee is. We don't know where the Ark of the Covenant is. I don't have a problem with Ron Wyatt's deal, but the Ark of the Covenant hasn't been excavated and on display for, what I'm saying? It's not like, we need to, there's a whole bunch of other stuff we can be concerning ourselves about and over than stuff that's completely out of our control. So let's focus on those things. We know it's the Shemitah year just ended. We're going to be putting together something for everyone regarding the how do we go forward now for the first year or two regarding the Shemitah year, because we're talking about it and we're being asked questions, and I just don't have the answers. I defer to the ladies here regarding all that. So.
The one constant is it's not in those details. It's the fact that he's returning, and they said that's our blessed hope. And he goes, if you focus on that, you become holy. 1 John 3. And that holiness is translated into obedience. And that obedience says that you love his law, his Torah, and you won't fall into sin. That it was part of that whole narrative in 1 John 3, 1 through 8, where he defines sin as the breaking of the Torah. And he goes, you don't break it, man, because you become holy when you long to see me. And that's different than calling out dates and times. And you know what? Again, it's like one person said, it's not about end times, it's about eternity. It's about dwelling with him. And again, what's that? That's Sukkot. That's tabernacles. Dwelling with him. The trial run of dwelling with him for 1,000 years. The whole ingathering.
That's always been my, I don't know if I'm sure I've shared it before, but that's always been my heart's desire, and that's to be alive to see his return. Because apparently if you die before his return, you miss out, you skip the millennium reign. But if you're alive when he shows up, you're involved with the millennium reign. I don't know. The two things I desire is to see his return and to be here during the millennium reign. So, yeah, it ain't my call. It's definitely not my call. Oh man. Because people like, well, if you can go back in time with the Bible carrying, let everyone's, I want to meet Jesus. I want to hang out with Jesus. And I'm like, I want to see what it was like to be. I want to see what the church was like 20 to 30 years after Jesus. When the Gentiles started coming into the church, I want to know how far they took this Torah thing with the Gentiles, because that's up for debate. I want to know. I want to see. I want to show up 10 to 15 years after Acts 10, which is about 20 to 25 years after Jesus. I want to know what it was like for the Gentiles being brought into the church. How much were they? How much of the Torah was imposed on them? Was it all Torah? Was it all of it, like we think and believe? or was it just a couple things? I don't know, right? So that's where I want to go back and see. Well, in the same way, because I think that would help. See, those type of things help.
Remember when we taught on Romans?
No.
It was at Blundell's house.
Yeah, no.
You don't remember? Well, anyway, the reality was that was Paul teaching not only to the Gentiles, but to the Hebrew Torah observant Jews that came into Messiah, and trying to constantly, he didn't hold back on Torah.
Yeah.
And he had to constantly deal with this pagan entity that was coming in that had no clue on Torah.
Yeah.
So he came up with that kind of language. The whole issue where the culmination was being grafted in,
Yeah.
And being part of the Commonwealth of Israel, taking them back to Abraham.
What a demographic, right?
It was. Huh?
What a demographic to have to deal with.
It had to, and you know what? Here we are 2,000 years later, and it's a good template for us, but we got to take it even farther than that. And I believe that's as we get closer to his return, this is that kind of understanding that's going to come out, that's going to prepare people for his return to understand him in the full glory of Torah as the living Torah. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around that, because we have Romans as a template, but here we are 2,000 years down the road, and he wants to take us, put that in us, and be able to extrapolate and draw people in from that. That's a task in itself, because you still got your pagans out there. The fact is they're calling themselves Christians. and they need to know the truth that if they're grafted into the branch, they better know that branch. They better not curse that branch. They better understand that branch gives them life. And that's what you're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do, is teach them their foundations. And if they reject the foundations for tradition, well, there you go.
Yeah. It's just they don't care, man. I mean, that example of that discourse, that comment thread on that post the other day with that guy, it's like he wasn't listening to anything I said. He was blah 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 blah. He was just a talking head. This is what I've been told. This is what I've been told. And it wasn't even right. It was all wrong. He's misquoting Matthew 24, I think it is. Just it's like don't come over to my house and start telling me how I don't know what I'm talking about, and how you do. And then I love it because they say, "Oh, I didn't come here to argue with you. You're a liar. That's the only reason why you're here. The only reason why you're here is to argue. You're not here to learn. You're not here to anything. And that's okay. Just stay away.
Right.
Just keep on walking. Unfriend, whatever. Just pass on by. Don't bring your nonsense. Don't be ridiculous and bring your nonsense here. I can work with people that I see you. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. That means you have to love yourself before you can love your neighbor. In the same way, Jesus can only help those that are willing to help themselves, right? The guy that was brought down from the rooftop, that they were proactive in faith. Their faith was proactive, and it worked. The woman with the issue of blood, the lepers, right? They were all proactive. They weren't just sitting around waiting for something to happen. They were proactive. Well, the people that came to Shavuot conference, they were proactive. And because they were proactive, they got what what the Lord had for them, whether it was healing.
And they didn't even know what hit them either.
Yeah. Healing, speaking in tongues, whatever. Prophecy, right? Well, if you're not diligently proactive in seeking after, right, working out your own salvation, that's a constant. That's not a one-time deal. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. That's a constant. As soon as you come to Messiah, to the day your last breath, you have to be diligently proactive, further up, further in. Can't stay here. Can't go back. Got to go forward. On and on and on and on and on. People don't understand this. And you know why people don't understand this is because they don't live their life like that. I've had these conversations with Steven because, he's trying to figure out what's my tomorrow look like now after the tour. So we've had these conversations about got to have goals. You got to have milestones. You got to have a to-do list. You have to know what you want to do. You have to know where you want to go and so that you can go. Otherwise, right? Because if you're just sitting around, I'm not saying that he is. We've talked about how a lot of people in the music industry, because that's a reference we can talk about. A lot of musicians don't know that they're supposed to actually go out there and make a career for themselves happen. They're actually sitting at home in their basement with their little garage band. I can't say what I was going to say because it would be crude, but they can't. They sit around in the basement with their little garage band, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to knock on the door to offer them some dream, to offer them their dream, a record deal. It doesn't work that way. Nothing works like that. It doesn't work that way. You have to actually go out and do the work of, ready? Knocking, seeking, asking. Otherwise, you die on the vine. Otherwise, the foxes come over or the birds. Look at the seeds in the sower, the parable of the seeds. You have to be proactively going for it or you will die. Or, right? If you just sit around your house, you'll get fat, you'll get lazy, you'll get more stupid than you already are for sitting around on your house, and your muscles. And your muscles, right? Your muscles you get atrophy, and you won't be able to. Eventually, you won't be able to get up. That happens spiritually too. It happens mentally. They say old people need to hang out with kids. Little kids and old people are a great combination because it keeps the old people, right? It's just common sense, man. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. You can't stop. When you stop, you die. You got to keep moving spiritually, psychologically, mentally, physically. But if you're just sitting around waiting for Jesus to come to your door, I guarantee you a whole bunch of other things will come to your door first, and you'll think it's him. Okay, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Somebody needed to hear that.
Reminds me of the living water that flows through you.
There you go.
Big time.
Movement. Rivers of water, right? Rivers
Rivers.
move. They're not stagnant. They're not like lakes. It's a moving thing. Oh.
He made that in reference to the difference of wrong worship and worshiping in spirit and truth. If you do that, you're moving. Because it forces you to, I was thinking about this from what you said earlier, what it really means to go out there and do it. You're actually confessing Christ to men. Yeah. He says, if you don't do that, I ain't going to confess you to my Father. And that confession is to live it. It's to demonstrate him inside of you. It's to demonstrate his authority, his anointing and power. That's why he gave us the gifts. The gifts aren't top. They're supposed to be normative in you because you love him, and it's a natural outflow of who you are. That's confessing the Messiah.
Yeah. It's proximity. No one cares if you believe in Jesus.
There's your word.
I
mean, that was the best study I ever heard from you, that when you talked on proximity, man.
I remember when Hillary Clinton confessed that she was a Christian. It wasn't, and it's like, my problem wasn't whether or not she is a Christian or not. My problem with that was the fact that she thought she was. See, and that's right. It's not about whether you think you're saved or that you're whatever. Does he know you by name? All right, I don't know you, which means you're a goat. Go to the left. You have to be known by him. And the only way to be known by him is to walk in covenant. I reposted this the other day on Facebook. It's absolutely terrifying. I'm going to read it to you. It's absolutely terrifying. All right. We are in Isaiah 66, verses
Yikes.
22 through 24. Now, you can't be a Christian and say, yeah, Isaiah 52 is good. Right? Isn't Isaiah 52 the prophecy about the lamb?
52 and 53, yeah.
Yeah, with his stripes we are healed. You can't be all about that one and not about the rest of it. It's all or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, Christians all day long cite that. They recite that, and they're all about that. But then tell them to read Isaiah 65 and 66. Oh, yeah, that doesn't apply. That's no, that doesn't work, Alan. You silly little human. All right, check this out. Ready? This is sobering, man. For just as the new heavens and the new earth that I am making will continue in my presence, says Adonai, so will your descendants and your name continue. Ready? Every month on Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, and every week on Shabbat, the Sabbath, everyone living, you remember, it's Isaiah 66. We are in the millennium reign. Wait, we're past the millennium reign because there's a new heaven and new earth already. So think about this. We're past the millennium reign. It's the new heaven and the new earth because it begins by saying, for just as the new heavens and the new earth that I am making will continue in my presence, so will your descendants and your name continue. So I'm trying to put a timeline here. It's not yesterday. It's not today. It's in our tomorrow. Let's say we can say that. That way no one can argue with whether it's millennium reign or post millennium reign. It's tomorrow. Guaranteed it's tomorrow. Every month, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, Rosh Chodesh and Shabbat in the new heaven and the new earth. Wow, that's amazing, right? This is tomorrow. Every month on Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, and every week on Shabbat, the Sabbath, everyone living will come to worship in my presence. That's 5 times a month. As they leave, they will look on the corpses of the people who rebelled against me. For their worm will never die, and their fire will never be quenched, but they will be abhorrent to all humanity. His statutes and his covenants and his precepts are ever freaking lasting, people. They transcend space and time. But we don't necessarily understand or know why he makes an example and he makes a production, a display of those that didn't cooperate, didn't obey, didn't serve, didn't love, didn't submit, didn't take the knee. But he does. And it says that he does this it's on display for us, for humanity.
It's amazing how he addresses the spiritual, but he also addresses the natural, because those who eat pig and rat, they're not allowed into his presence. And
the abominable things.
That's in the future.
That's intense, man. See?
Oh, but I can do it now. I can do whatever I want. Oh boy, that's terrifying.
Keeping Rosh Chodesh, keeping Shabbat are really important. This is serious stuff, man. Doesn't have to make sense to you. I don't understand why you're telling me to eat your flesh and drink your blood. I don't understand why you're telling me to look at this moon. I don't understand why you're telling me to keep track of this moon. I don't understand why you're telling me to keep Jewish feasts. I'm not Jewish, right? I mean,
think about this. Meditate on the fact that he was the Lord of the Sabbath. And break it down. He is the Lord of the rest. And that rest is, again, pointing to Sukkot. My gosh. He is the Lord of Sabbath. That's for all eternity.
yeah.
It crossed my mind. I'm just going, wow. He wasn't just making a statement so they didn't have to observe. He was making an eternal declaration
Yeah.
to who he is.
Right. It's like he's not doing this stuff to hear himself talk.
No.
It's like, I love you. I desire you. I want to be your God. I want you to be my people. A nation of kings and priests. My treasured possession from all nations. I want to reveal myself to you. I want you to recapture my essence that is lying dormant within you so that you can be the real whole you. That's how much I love you. And in order to bridge that gap, I'm going to send you my son that I set aside from the very beginning, from before the foundations of the earth, Jesus of Nazareth, who will once and for all be the sin atonement for be the atonement for your sin. And all you have to do is receive. See, I'm going to provide the sacrifice, like Abram, like with Abraham and Isaac. I'm going to provide the sacrifice. Instead of you, I'm going to provide my lamb to bridge that gap, to give you the opportunity to cleanse yourself and to clothe yourself with the works of the saints. That's what the fine linen is. So that you can enter into my rest.
Yep.
We'll see you tonight, 8 Central.
You're listening to Chameleon Church. Biblical Antidotes for the Modern Man. With your host, Allan Aguirre.
The views and opinions expressed during our broadcasts are solely those of the broadcast producers, hosts, and/or guests, etc., and are not necessarily the views or opinions of the Travelog Network, its sponsors, or affiliates.